Hey friends, welcome back to more stories about entitled people, crazy people, and everything in between. Hope you're all doing awesome today, and let's get right into it. Landlord Airbnb'd my home when I was on vacation. I currently rent a home in California on a 1-year lease. I recently stayed in Vancouver for a couple months with my family to spend time with my nephew and enjoy summer vacation. When I got back to my house, I had noticed that items from my house have been missing, such as my PlayStation, PC, and even an entire gun safe with a firearm inside. There was no sign of forced entry whatsoever. I filed a police report for theft, alongside asking my neighbors if they saw anything. This is where the what the F comes in. 2 of my neighbors said they didn't even realize I was gone because they saw cars parked in front, alongside people coming and going the entire time. I proceeded to ask my landlord if he has had any repairmen or people coming in and going, since that's the only way somebody could have had a key to the front. He said he rented out the space on Airbnb when I was gone. I am absolutely furious. He denies any wrongdoing, stating it's his building and I vacated for the 2 months. I was paying every goddamn month I was gone. I realize now he figured out I was gone since I let him know I would be gone for a few months, so instead of picking up the rent in person with cash, I would Cash App him. He is refusing any liability, saying he isn't responsible for the guests, and I should just file a renter's insurance claim. Okay, this is beyond messed up. He's obviously just trying to profit as much as he can, while also trying to gaslight OP into thinking there's nothing they can do about it. And the top comment here is giving a bit of advice to OP, saying, the good thing about filing an insurance claim is they might sue the landlord for you, and they're probably much better positioned to do that. So I definitely talk to your insurance company. Your landlord definitely had no right to double rent your apartment while you were still making rent payments on it, regardless of whether you were physically inside it or not. Make a list of everything stolen. Probably already did this for the police report. Tell the police what happened. The landlord may be criminally liable as well, for having knowingly let people into your apartment that had no business being there. And unless your insurance company has this covered on your behalf, sue your landlord for the value of everything stolen, and the rent you paid for the 2 months. And consider moving somewhere where the landlord isn't a criminal. Yeah, that last part should be a given, shouldn't it? I feel like it's fair to say that as long as OP proceeds with this correctly, notifying police, notifying insurance, and maybe suing them if necessary, then there's no way this landlord should be able to get away with this. But damn OP, best of luck. Apartment manager doesn't take cash for a 2-cent bill. In 2019, I moved from an apartment complex in Celebration, Florida, to a condo. As usual, when you move out of an apartment, you get a final bill, which includes your last month's prorated rent, deductions for damages, security deposit refunds, and the like. We paid it. The next month, I get a call from my wife who says, we've got a follow-up bill in the mail from the apartment management company for 2 cents. We're both in the tech field, so we laughed that this company's IT department didn't catch the edge case of spending 50 cents in postage to collect 2 cents in revenue. But it happens. My wife prints out a copy of the bill. I grab 2 cents from the change jar. The apartment complex is on my daily drive, so I swing by the office. I walk in and tell the manager that I want to pay my last bill. I say, it's 2 cents. Here's the bill, and I have the 2 cents if you want it. The manager says, we don't take cash. Nothing else. There was an awkward pause. I say, I don't expect you to take cash. I expect both of us to have a laugh about how silly your computer systems are, and for you to write off the 2 cents, because it'd cost you more to process the payment. She says, I'm not going to do that. Again, awkward pause. I say, so you want me to write you a check for 2 cents and mail it, and you're going to process that check? The manager says, yes, send us a check and we'll process it, and then walks back into her office to end the conversation. So I go home and set up an automatic monthly bank payment to my apartment complex for 3 cents. And then, because I'm a programmer, I write some code to send a letter once per month saying, I'm so sorry, I've overpaid my bill. Please send me a check for the overpayment. And I use an online service that sends postcards in ridiculous sizes, up to around 18 by 24 inches, figuring that'll be my escalation strategy. The first of the next month, I get a call from the apartment company's regional manager. After introducing himself, the next 2 minutes were the most sincere. Oh God, we made a mistake. Please don't do this. We'll never contact you again. Apology anyone could have hoped for. I stopped the mail and never heard from them again. Too racist to enjoy a tropical island and ends up paying the price. I was just reminiscing about the absurdity of this situation that happened almost 2 years ago, and I've decided it's too good not to share. For context, my mom is a traveling healthcare worker, not a nurse nor a doctor, just to clarify, and we're from the US. Usually her contracts last from 8 weeks to 9 months, and she's worked all around the States. This results in an ungodly amount of airline miles that she likes to gift me so I can visit her wherever she's on contract. I get a nice vacation, she gets to see me, I get to see her. Win-win-win. 2 years ago, after I graduated and was living at my mom and her long-term boyfriend's house, in a COVID lockdown-induced depression and existential crisis, my mother scored her first overseas contract on a tropical island for 6 months, from June to the end of November. I had gotten a crappy job in my hometown to start saving for whatever my next step was. 3 months in, my mom realized the downside to being on a very small island, where international travel to and fro was a pain in the butt. She was lonely. This prompted a very bashful phone call in which she asked me if I wanted to take a break from working and come stay with her for a while. I jumped at the opportunity and we made arrangements to get my passport renewed, and booked a ticket for me to stay with her for the last few months of her contract. All of this context comes to the main character, another US-based traveler, also not a nurse nor a doctor, who was my mother's coworker. Let's call her Mary. Mary, to put it bluntly, was racist as hell, and she was not enjoying getting paid to work on an island with crystal blue water on white sand beaches. Why? Because she failed to realize that she wouldn't be treating elite white resort goers. No, turns out the people who tend to be treated at the local hospital were the native islanders. You know, the people of color. She was so livid about having to go to a grocery shop surrounded by people of color. Not what she called them. Hint, it starts with N and ends with R. It didn't matter that she could go to the beach every day after work and was lodged in a multi-million-dollar vacation home on one of the highest points of the island with a gorgeous view. Nah, she was too busy recoiling at the sight of, gasp, melanin. So yeah, she hated being there and wanted nothing more than to leave. She latched onto my mother for company, and my mother reluctantly obliged her for a time due to aforementioned loneliness. The main conflict of the story comes when my mother's contract began to reach its end, while Mary still had a month to go. Mary fought tooth and nail to renegotiate an early end of her contract, but was denied. So what does she do? She just leaves, like packs all her stuff and departs to the US anyway. No biggie, right? She just doesn't get her remaining paychecks? Wrong. Here comes the beauty of contracts. See, the contract agreed to comp her lodging on the condition she fulfill her employment duties. Since she very clearly had no intention to, the contract was therefore voided, and the compensation for her lodging was completely retracted. She was now on the hook to pay back this country's health ministry for the several months of rent they had paid to house her in that gorgeous vacation home with the beautiful view. I'm not sure how much it would have been, but I'm guessing $1 million at the very least. Mary was now not only a crap employee in this country, but a literal fugitive. But she figured they could only arrest and charge her if she ever stepped foot back on their soil, so she wasn't concerned. She was mostly right, but that wasn't the only thing this country's government could do. They proceeded to ring up the good old US government, notify them of the charges, and let them take it from there. They couldn't have her extradited, but they could ask the US to flag her passport until she paid them or faced charges. So the US government said, sure buddy, we'll do it. And they did. Mary can't leave the US anymore. She can't even go to Canada. She tried to join her friends on vacation in Mexico, but wouldn't be allowed to cross the border. So if you ever think you screwed up a job really badly, just remember that you at least aren't an actual international criminal who can no longer leave the country. What an absolute gem of humanity. Imagine having that kind of opportunity to be able to work overseas on a tropical island and stay in a luxurious home. But the thought of being around people of a different skin color than you is so bad that you decide to throw all that away and break your own contract. I think it's safe to say pulling a stunt like this probably affected her career as well, even in terms of work opportunities in her home country. Am I the a-hole for having a treehouse removed from my property? My grandparents died recently and I inherited their farm. I was really excited about this. getting the farm, not their deaths. I was actually really close with them. Because my husband and I, 27 male and 24 female, have been looking for a house near my school. It's my first year as a middle school teacher, and this house holds sentimental value. Grandfather built it for grandmother as a wedding present. And it's a huge property, literally hundreds of acres. A few subdivisions have been built nearby, including one directly adjacent to the farm. My husband and I were exploring our new property, which has quite a bit of wooded area, and we found a huge live oak tree with a treehouse in it. This was obviously done by an adult, not children, because the lumber was new and it was really well built, even had an AC window unit and glass windows. My husband and I waited around to see if anyone showed up, and sure enough, a guy, mid to late 30s maybe, and a few kids show up. The guy immediately has an attitude and asks why we're on his property. My husband tells him that it's actually ours, and we have the papers to prove it. The guy tells the kids to go play and he starts freaking out because he thought that no one owned this property. So he doesn't understand how land works, he's trespassing, and he has an attitude. We tell him that he needs to leave because this is private property, and we don't want to be held liable for any of his kids getting hurt on our property. He leaves, he was pissed, and we immediately call the sheriff's office to report the trespassing issue, and we call a contractor to have the treehouse removed. Like I said, I'm a teacher. I can't afford a liability lawsuit. A few days passed, the treehouse was removed and the lumber was donated, and the guy shows up on our doorstep, accusing us of stealing his Christmas gift to his son. I explained to him that because the treehouse was built on our property, without our consent, that legally it was ours. He threatens to call the police, and I tell him to go for it because legally we're in the right. The police show up and the guy ends up being really embarrassed because he was proven wrong and fined. I feel fine having the treehouse removed, but a few people from the subdivision have called our house phone, calling us kid haters and selfish monsters. Couldn't be far from the truth. I'm a school teacher, I love kids. Legally, I'm in the right, but morally, I don't know. I did attempt to reach out to him, but he wouldn't answer his phone or his door. My husband dropped off the personal items, furniture, windows, AC window unit, etc. at his house. The parish, not the county, we live in Louisiana, mailed him a notice that it was going to be removed, so he knew about it. The wife of the guy actually did reach out to apologize to me and my husband about her husband's actions. I'll be sending out a batch of chocolate chip cookies to her tomorrow as an olive branch. We agreed with her that it's best not to involve the HOA, because I don't want them to get ridiculous fines for breaking the contract that was drawn up with my grandparents about residents not trespassing. Yeah, the neighbor dude had every chance to fix this. OP tried to reach out to this guy to try to come to some sort of understanding about the situation, when the neighbor didn't even have a right to build there in the first place. So even legal matters aside, OP did everything they could to try to be civil about this. And I'm guessing OP even had to pay that contractor to have the treehouse removed. And even after all that, there wouldn't have been any repercussions for this guy either, but he decides to call the cops and ends up getting himself fined. That's just pure gold, way to go. Anyway guys, I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, be sure to drop a like, and also subscribe to the channel for more Reddit shenanigans. So have an awesome day, I'll see you next time.